Evening, everybody. How are you tonight? Happy Tuesday. Um, we have a whole lot of things to cover this evening, and we've been joined by our special guest, tech support puppy. So, if I do have any difficulties this evening, um, he'll be here to watch it all go down. Anyway, I'm also saying that just in case he decides to join in. He's sleeping right now, but we'll see how we go as we move along through the program. So, without any further chatter on my part, let's go ahead and get started with tonight's screen share. All right, here we go. Move this window away. All right, let me try that one more time. uh, all right. Oh, the suspense is killing me. Oh, it's not responding. All right, you know what? We'll stop the share for a second. We'll let the slideshow get caught up. And you'll notice tech support puppy's going to remain silent throughout all of this. He just shifted a little bit on my foot, but yeah, he's not going to jump to our aid. Um, Maybe talk amongst yourselves for a moment while PowerPoint is restarting. There we go. All right, let's see what we got here. Does this look like the right one? Yes, this is the one we want. Boy, this would be a good time to share some background music if I had some. Um, this is a technological difficulty that I don't remember having. Um, the little hourglass. Um, we'll just hang on while Windows support reports the problem to Microsoft. All right. Hi, Michelle. All right. Let's open this up one more time. All right, I think I got the right version. All right, let's go ahead and give this a start. Yeah. You guys have to be loving this. All right, that's the one I want. All right, so go back to this. We'll share the screen. Yes. There we go. Whew. The good natured hour is now down to the good natured 51 minutes. And we've got so much we want to cover. So let's jump right into it. Folks, last week, the article that ran in the newspaper was all about oil beetles in the Meloe species. There's a lot of different types of these beetles, and to distinguish between the different species, there's lots of parts that you need either a microscope or you have to get really personal with the beetle in order to be able to identify what you're looking at, or you need to talk to a beetle expert. And I don't really know that many, at least not that like this kind of beetles anyway. So we're just going to go with the genus name, but that's okay because a lot of the species within this genus share these very cool traits. Now, something I didn't really get into too much, I might have made just a side mention of it in the column, was the name oil beetle. Well, that actually refers to a substance that these insects produce. It's cantharidin, which is a blistering agent. It's got these powerful chemicals in it that will actually cause a chemical burn, especially if you are exposed to a high quantity. Now, what a beetle can produce will it'll leave a mark, but it's not, they don't produce such massive quantities, even though these are pretty good sized beetles. Uh, they are definitely the sort of insect that you want to look at, but not touch. The other thing, though, about this cantharidin is that it's the males primarily that produce it. The females, which is surprising, you'd think the females, they're larger. You'd think they would be the ones that are loaded with this stuff, but they actually receive the chemical from their mates. Now, when they're larvae, which we'll get into that part of the life cycle in just a minute, but as larvae, they both have small quantities of this, but it's the male that continues to produce it over his lifetime, and then he presents it to the female during the mating process. It's a substance that's got quite a bit of usefulness. There's several types of insects that will actually harvest this from the blister beetles. This is a photo that shows fire-colored beetles waiting to lap up some of that cantharidin from a Meloe beetle. They use it in a similar fashion as the oil beetles. They'll use it to protect their eggs. Predators don't want to mess with that stuff, but these beetles are all immune to that power of the blistering power of that chemical. So it is what gives the insects their name, and it's something to be respected. But again, that's only part of the oil beetle's story. Take a look at this diagram. Now, in the column, I referred to this as taking the B train. So let's start over here at about 9 o'clock on this diagram here. We've got two beetles end to end. That's Mama on the left and Papa on the right. They mate, and then she will deposit her eggs in a hole in the ground. Well, when those eggs hatch, the larvae, the very first instar or life stage that these larvae go through is called a triungulin stage. And there's different beetles that will have this sort of a stage too. The cicada parasite beetles that we've talked about in the past, they have this stage. There's a beetle that parasitizes another type of ground bee. They also have this triungulin stage too. It's a very mobile stage. When we think about beetle larvae, we tend to think of grubs, maybe mealworms, things that aren't terribly mobile. But these triungulins are actually quite mobile. They're able to walk around, and what they do is they form a clump. And not only does this clump sort of resemble the outline of an insect, but they emit a chemical that mimics the pheromones of a female ground-dwelling bee. Now, this might be a type of mason bee or plasterer bee. The oil beetle species tends to be fairly specific to either a genus or species of ground-dwelling bee, but these larvae are able to attract a male bee who thinks he's, flying up to have a date with a female, and when he lands on that bunch of larvae of those triangulins, they will climb aboard him and they'll hitch a ride until they get to their actual quarry, which is a female bee. So the male bee picks up this group of larvae and he finds another female. And when he mates with her, now as we were proceeding around the diagram, now we're about 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock. The female bee then, the oil beetle larvae will transfer from her to him, and uh-oh, I'm not ready to go yet. And then she, who is the one who creates these underground chambers, and that's where she lays her eggs. She provisions them with nectar and pollen, and those triangulins hang out in there. They feed off of what she has provisioned her offspring with. Now, there's some disagreement or varying accounts on what the beetle larvae are feeding in down there. Some people say yes, they eat the nectar and the pollen, and they also eat the bee larvae. And other sources say that sometimes they leave the bee larvae alone. It could depend on the species of oil beetle, but suffice it to say they continue to progress through their various instars. They pupate down in that burrow underneath the ground. Then when they emerge, they then start the cycle all over again. They mature, they find a mate, they make more eggs, more triangulate, and the cycle goes around and around again. But it's just really incredibly amazing how these very different species have co-evolved this life cycle that is the beetles are entirely dependent on these bees for their success. Now, here's another picture of the beetle that I found out in the Hickory Knolls natural area. I checked iNaturalist to see just how prevalent they are in northern Illinois, and there was actually one just sighted today at Starved Rock. Again, our warmer than usual fall, I think, is extending the activity of these beetles, although they are typically spotted in the fall. They are a September, October, November sort of species, and the fact that we've had somewhat warmer weather has allowed them to keep moving around. Now, looking at the beetle, so we've got this enormous abdomen here, and again, this thing was it was probably 2/3 the size of my pinky finger. It was a good sized beetle. You can see up towards the behind the head here, we've got the pronotum, and then we've got what would be wing covers. This is a flightless species of beetle, so they are always found crawling around. You're not going to find wings unfolding from those wing covers and having them take off. But anyway, oil beetles, yet another astounding part of our local fauna here in northern Illinois. So I wanted to address this topic one more time. John and Bobby, we had lunch together last week, and I mentioned raking the leaves at my parents' house, and you both looked at me and said, "What do you mean, rake the leaves at your mom's house? Aren't you supposed to leave them in place?" Well, I just wanted to kind of clarify that getting the leaves, if you've got turf grass in your yard, moving the leaves off of that grass will help sustain the grass itself. It won't smother it over the winter time, and in the spring, they're if your grass might be a little bit healthier for it. Um, there's a lot of neighborhoods where, in fact, homeowners association, a lot of times there's requirements that those leaves have to be moved off the lawn. But there's different things you can do when you're moving them. In this case, these folks opted to rake them to the curb because here in St. Charles, we have leaf collections that occur, I believe it's 2 or 3 times over the course of the fall. This giant vacuum comes along and sucks up those leaves. What it's sucking up besides the leaf is all the things that are in the cover of those leaves. The pile of leaf is very attractive to lots of different organisms. On the left-hand side here, you can see the front yard of the picture that we saw previously with the big pile of leaves. They had raked everything out of their yard and out to the curb. And what we see there now is very little habitat on the surface. There's a few leaves here and there, so there might be a place for something to hide. But over here on the right, we've got leaves that are distributed across an area. And look real close here. Look down in that green stuff. See where that red circle developed? That might be a spot for a polyphemus cocoon. And over here on the right, that dark spot there, that might be a good spot for a giant leopard moth or maybe a woolly bear caterpillar to hide. Now, I came across this photo the other day, a pile of leaves as we're going into winter. Look really closely at it and see if you can see who's using that area for camouflage, and we'll probably use that area to overwinter as well. Might dig down a little bit below the surface. This was just such a really cool representation of camouflage. You see the frog? It's a spring peeper. It's right there. Isn't that something? So think about that. So maybe move the leaves around a little bit if you want to help the turf grass that you might have in their yard. But if you can keep them on your property, one, even if there's nothing living in them, which is highly unlikely, there'd have to be something wrong with the leaves for animals or even really small creatures like well, even bacteria will be living there decomposing these leaves. They will Those leaves will break down and enrich your soil. And chances are, if you've got attractive piles of leaves, maybe under your shrubs or at the base of your trees, or I found at my mom's house, just piling them up close to the house is a great way to get them out of the way. They're out of the wind, so they don't blow into the neighbor's yard, but they still allow that habitat formation and that enrichment of the soil. Who knows? Might even end up with some spring peepers. No doubt there's toads that are using that too, but it's just, I just wanted to clarify, leaving the leaves on the property, even if you have to move them around a little bit, it's still a good practice to follow. So, the last few years, as technologies have improved, we've seen the rise of a lot of different webcams. This is from a bald eagle down in Florida. These were some red-tailed hawks in New York. This, I think, was inside a bluebird box, if I remember correctly. Well, tonight, folks, we have a good-natured exclusive. We have a bird's nest fungus cam. So, see what I did there? So, Diane, I have to thank you for the inspiration for this. You were out taking photos a few weeks ago, and we've really been on a fungus kick, haven't we, these last several weeks? We've had the rain, the conditions have finally gotten right for all these different sorts of fungi to just pop out and show themselves. Well, bird's nest fungus, it's a really neat little organism. There's actually several different kinds in this genus. Most people call them bird's nest fungus because it does look like a little bird's nest with little black eggs in it, but in some parts of the country they're referred to as splash cups. Their ecological function is that they help break down wood. So a lot of times where we see them around here is in wood chips. I know I was out at Peck Farm um, several times over the last few months, and they have a nice crop of bird's nest fungus on the, well, what would that be? Um, I think it's the south side of the house where the wood chips are. Um, so the fungus has these little structures that would be the eggs inside the nest, but they're actually called peridioles, and each one of those has millions of spores. I read as many as 30 million spores per egg. Spores, remember, they're very, very tiny. A lot of them are almost microscopic. And they kind of erupt when they're hit with water, hence the name splash cup, or if there's some other disturbance, um, and they kind of spring forth. This is a diagram that comes courtesy of the University of Florida Extension Service that gives you a sense of what's going on inside these birds' nests. Here's the nest part, the cup part is called the peridium, and then the eggs, the peridioles, are attached to these structures. If you look at the B section here, this funicular cord holds onto the peridiole, and it kind of holds it in place. And then when that disturbance occurs, when it gets splashed with water, or maybe a bird comes along and kicks the little nest. um, Things like that happen to disturb those eggs, and the spores spring. When you see bird's nest fungus, a lot of times you don't just see one, you see many different examples. That's because of the way these spores are dispersed. They tend to kind of stay in one area, and we end up with just a whole big group of bird's nest fungus. So as we continue through the fall, it's all these cool fungi that keep being called to our attention. Keep your eye out for bird's nest fungus. And again, thanks, Diane, for those great pictures. So I got an email from a gentleman who had been walking over at Delnor Woods, and he's been noticing the beaver activity over at Delnor Woods. Um, he's found it kind of fascinating, and frankly, so have I. Now, the area we're talking about, so here's Delnor Woods. It's over on the east side of St. Charles. North 5th Avenue is Route 25. I'm going to superimpose here a little drawing from the city of St. Charles. So this black line, this shows what's really a drainage for the east side, the northeast side of town. It starts in the Persimmon Woods area, and storm drains and things like that kind of flush into, and runoff actually is probably the primary source, runs into this low-lying area or drainage that has formed over time this creek through the property now known as Delnor Woods Park. And you can see it kind of makes its way down. Now the Norris family for many years owned that property, and over two different purchases the Park District has acquired two pretty large parcels of that land. And we now curate this stream that runs through here. The dams remain, so we've got some ponds along the way. There's a pond up near the start of the black line. It looks like kind of like a circle with a lighter part to it. And then the stream meanders down, and there's a larger dark blob. That's another pond. And then there's a even larger dark pond, which is what we see from Route 25. It's towards the front of the park. Well, from there, the water proceeds over a dam that was rebuilt a couple of years ago. And it used to fall into just this really small, nondescript stream. It sometimes would be dry. If we were having a dry year and nothing was rolling over the dam, that stream would be almost non-existent. Well, now that we've had some rains, there is water in the stream. But then we look at the work of the beavers, and we find out that that stream is actually morphing into several small ponds. Now, that area of the park is not really there are some houses, at least one house that overlooks that area, but it's on a very high kind of a bank. It's, I would say, a good 15 feet or more above that creek, so there's not any danger of this water backing up and flooding that property. Um, it may back up and flood into the park, I don't know, but the beavers have been really, really busy there this fall. And this past Saturday, I had occasion to visit it with intrepid explorer Laura. We met over at Delnor Woods. We were actually on another nature mission that we'll get to in a little while. But look what Laura did. She really took one for the good natured team and did it quite well. I forget. Graceful as a gazelle, I think, was the term, Laura, that you used to describe your sure-footedness. I just was astounded. Um, I had tech support puppy with me that day. We had just come from obedience class, so I used that as my excuse. But even if I didn't have him, there is no way I would have been able to walk across this down tree, as Laura did, to one of the areas that's now an island that's surrounded by the backwaters of the creek that has been dammed up by the beavers. So Laura went over and checked it out, and you can see now the big tree in the background here, that's a cottonwood that split and spread out. It just is a miracle that there wasn't any, you know, well, nobody really goes down there. Nobody besides nature nerds go down to that area. But I mean, that was a huge tree and enormous cottonwood that came down and split three ways like that. So the beavers did not do that. But if you look, you can see no, in fact, let's start this video playing here. Here's Laura coming back over on yet another down tree, and there's just stumps and I don't know how many beavers we're talking about here. I suspect, though, these are related. They might even be the same beavers that used to live farther up on the stream. But when we pulled out one of their dams, we had to make some improvements for safety up at that northernmost pond at Delnor Woods. In doing so, we kind of wrecked the dam, which then wrecked the log jam and the height of that pond back there. So the suddenly the lodge was high and dry. The beavers don't like that, so then they left. But what, all this time I was talking, Laura was making her way across that fallen tree, that tree that the beavers felled, and it was just as dry as when she started that adventure. So hats off to you, Laura, for making that investigation for us. And if you all want to check it out, again, it's Delnor Woods Park, and it's the stream that's right at the front of the park. You'll if you park off of Route 25 and you proceed down the path to the footbridge, after you cross that, you'll enter a grassy area, and the creek will be through the trees on your right. You can't miss it, and it's really stunning. This in the springtime, some of you longtime viewers might recall, we had put a trail cam in this area. We might bring that back again because there's a lot going on down here. And until there's evidence that the beavers are causing damage to nearby properties, the park district has made the decision to go ahead and let them continue to modify that area down there. You will notice there are some trees. Some of the larger trees in that area do have fencing around them now in an effort to protect a few of the trees. But this is a really cool opportunity to be able to see beavers doing what beavers do best. Now, somebody had asked me, well, why do they cut these trees down if they're not building anything? Why are they doing that? Well, remember, beavers, they don't actually eat wood. They eat the living tissue of the tree, which is the outermost layers of the tree, the xylem and the phloem, the sapwood and the what's the word I'm going for? Let's just call it the living tissue, the inner bark parts of the tree. So they also will eat the tender parts of the tree, which are the newer twigs. And where are the newer twigs? They're up at the top of the tree. Beavers, they can. I actually have some pictures of a tree that a beaver did climb a short distance on, but they're not. They're rodents. They're related to squirrels distantly, but they cannot climb a tree the way a squirrel can. So, in order to get to those tender branches, what they do is they cut the tree down and then they chew them off. So, anyway, very cool things happening at Delnor Woods. We'll continue to keep an eye on that. And Laura, gosh darn it, I think we should do a whole segment on how to cross a creek using a downed tree as your bridge. You could teach us. Show us the way.
I'm game.
So, this is a sparrow. I'm going to play this little video. I was at Hickory Knolls yesterday, and some of you are members of Kane County Audubon, and if you were at last week's meeting, we had a sparrow expert talk about all the different characteristics you can use to identify a sparrow. And I have to admit, I left partway through, left the room. I was still in the building, but I had to go do something else, and I missed quite a bit of that talk. But I was so intrigued by this sparrow's very definite means of foraging. And the markings were somewhat distinct. I have a feeling, bird people, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is an immature white-crowned sparrow. But look at how it's kind of scratching and then jumping forward and feeding. It scratches and then it leans forward and it feeds on what it just scratched. So scratch, hop, scratch, or hop, scratch, hop, scratch, hop, scratch. Well, uh, following up on my hunch that this was a white-crowned sparrow, in a phenomenal online resource all about birds, which is allaboutbirds.org if you want to look it up. It's run by the Cornell Lab of Ornithology. They describe white-crowned sparrows as foraging by double scratching, a move they share with towhees. So a quick hop backwards to turn over the leaves, followed by a forward hop and a pounce. I'm pretty sure that's what I was seeing. Again, bird people, if I'm wrong, let me know in the chat. But it's always kind of fun to make connections when you see something and then you're able to read it and apply it, and hopefully are right about it. So the other point of that is we put a lot of emphasis on markings, and that was actually a lot of what the talk at Audubon last week focused on, was that yes, the markings are important, but you can't always see the markings. So behaviors, form, shape, structure, all these things they come together to help you make your identifications, even with sparrows. So, we're going to revisit another topic here, the Tupelo. This is the black Tupelo, which is also known as black gum, and we have it labeled as sour gum, which is another perfectly acceptable common name for this tree. I took this photo several weeks ago in the native plant garden behind Potawatomi. And when we talked about it before, mentioned how useful these berries are, um, and how so very many different species of birds will feed on them. Well, another helpful contribution from the good-natured crowd. This is Laura's sister Jerry, who sent in this recipe for black gum jam. So I looked at it and I thought, okay, 2 quarts of black gum berries. Maybe we can cut this recipe in half, or maybe a quarter, or maybe we just make a tiny little bit just to see how delicious or not delicious black gum jam would be. So while Laura and I, the reason we met at Delnor Woods, the beavers were certainly going to be part of our adventure, but we really wanted to go and see if we could find some black gum slash black tupelo slash sour gum berries on the trees at Delnor Woods. Now, how did we know there were black gum trees at Delnor Woods? Well, um, we yeah, I'll come back to that. We got these um, aerial photographs from our park district arborist, and he so kindly marked with red the areas where black tupelo trees are planted in our parks. Now, I should add that we did go and visit, just so we knew what we were looking for. We visited the tree again in the native plant garden. And we tasted them to see if they would actually be worth making into jam. And you could see there in the picture on the left, I've got a few in my hand. They're a little bit shriveled, but they weren't bad. And we we were also a little worried that maybe there might be some after effects from eating these, so we didn't eat a whole bunch of them, but we tried them, and we decided that this was a mission that was worth trying to accomplish. So, using these diagrams, we checked out the trees at Delnor Woods. So here again, there's that front pond. Um, and this white line in the middle, that's where the dog memorial statue is. So those of you familiar with that park, you can kind of get a sense of where we were headed. Well, we looked and looked and looked all throughout that area. We thought, well, maybe it's a small tree, maybe it's lost its leaves, maybe the birds have eaten all the berries. We couldn't find anything that resembled a sour gum tree there. So, strike one. So next, at Potawatomi, just again to orient ourselves here, that straight line about 3/4 of the way down the picture, that's the bike bridge, the old railroad bridge that's going over the Fox River. The building up on the upper left, that's the park pavilion. Well, the red blob there, um, there's a cypress tree there, a bald cypress tree. We sort of expanded our search throughout that general area. We found a lot of buckthorn berries, which we did not substitute for the sour gum that we were after. We looked and we looked. We could not find anything there either. So, strike two. So, the last map is the one here on the right. That is at Mount St. Mary's Park. So the roadway at the top, that's Prairie Street, going into the bridge that crosses the Fox River. We've got the tennis courts, the playground. The area where this marker is, the red marker here, is where the snapping turtle statue is. So again, if you're familiar with that park, this is where the black tupelo, black gum, sour gum trees are supposed to be, and certain you know where this is going. We struck out a third time. So we did accomplish our mission of finding out what the berries taste like. I was surprised to see how few remained on the tree. We also actually realized another little possible flaw in a future plan. If we do find that there are black gum trees in the area, the fruit was above our heads. We had to use a branch to pull down one of the other branches so we could get a few of those berries to taste. But anyway, if any of you know of a black tupelo sour gum tree in the area that's got berries, if any of you have made jam from them, even better. Would love to know how it tastes. But anyway, we may come back to this topic yet again if we're successful in our search for these berries.
They did taste
Now,
pretty good, Pam. Don't you
this
think?
is a video. I think I might have shown this in the spring. This is Fearson Creek Fen. This was a video that was taken by Ryan Solomon, our restoration ecologist. This was in April of this year, and it kind of serves to illustrate the power of restoration. This is an area that those of you who might be familiar with the history of Pearson Creek Fen know that years and years ago it was covered with reed canary grass. Well, our the head of our naturalist department, in fact, the founder of our naturalist department, who worked here at the time, Mary O, secured some grants and was able to go after that reed canary grass and pretty much scraped it all away. Reed canary grass is the sort of plant that spreads in a lot of different ways. It produces a lot of seeds. It also spreads underneath the ground, and it's very hard to eradicate. It was actually used as a foraging crop or a hay crop for cattle. I've spoken to farmers who actually really like reed canary grass. But anyway, canary grass in a wetland is going to grow and exclude all the other wetland species that we'd like to see growing there. So anyway, Mary got rid of the reed canary grass and over time tried to introduce more plant species that would be typical of a fen environment. Well, um, also, as those efforts were going on, the narrowleaf cattail kind of showed up on its own. That is the more aggressive of the cattail species we have in this area. We also have broadleaf cattail, which is also the one that's considered to be the native species around here. But anyway, the narrowleaf cattail grabbed hold and it sped ahead of any of our restoration efforts and took over. So that was kind of the second round in the saga of invasive species at the fen. Well, now you can see there's a variety of plant species growing in certain areas. We're still the restoration process. It's ongoing. It'll never be done, but our ecologists are introducing more and more species, trying to bring back some of the sedges and other plants that would be typical of this fen, this alkaline growing environment. And so lo and behold, the cranes showed up. We are going to look for them again this coming year. The reason I brought this up is Susie, this is courtesy of you. There's a really cool program that's coming up in December. It's sponsored by the Aldo Leopold Foundation, and it's a virtual evening with the cranes. Um, they did this last year, and it was quite successful, so they're offering it again. Um, I was going to post a link for how you can sign up for this program, but it's a super long one, so I didn't think it would translate well to the program. So if you're interested at all in, it's you don't have to attend all three. This isn't a series. It's the 13th, the 15th, and the 16th of December. But there you can learn about what the foundation is doing to protect the birds. Although Leopold had written quite eloquently about sandhill cranes in his Marshland elegy, which is part of his Sand County Almanac. But his foundation has maintained the sort of reverence that he had for these birds. There's a lot of birds that use the property surrounding the Aldo Leopold shack uh, as part of their staging area before they make their way south. So anyway, it's a really cool program. I'm looking forward to observing. I forget which night I signed up for, but you can too. Just if you're interested, let me know, and I will forward the email to you so you can sign up too. But speaking of cranes, they are starting to come through. I had an email from a woman who lives just north of town, and they have resident sandhill cranes in their subdivision. There's usually three, the mom, the dad, and Junior. But she said that they've now got over a dozen, and she's looking forward to more stopping by there. So the sandhill crane migration is starting in December. We always have our Park District holiday lunch the first Friday in December. Every year, I've worked here for almost 15 years, and every year that I've gone to that lunch, sandhill cranes have been flying over. So we're getting into that window now, Thanksgiving and early December, when they will be coming over in flocks. So keep your eyes open, keep your ears open, and then if you want, sign up for this program. You can learn a lot about these really cool birds. I've got another promo that I want to send you. We started off the program with oil. We're going to revisit the topic of oil. So, uh, frying turkeys, this has become a thing the last, I don't know. To me, it still seems kind of new, but I'm also am from a family that we don't fry our birds. We put them in the oven. But this is a time of year when a lot of people are purchasing cooking oil in large quantities because they're going to fry that bird. Um, what do you do when you're done with it? It's just kind of yucky. It's hard to store. A lot of times, particles of food end up in that oil, and over time, that's going to break the oil down. You're going to get that weird fishy smell. And if you're only doing this once a year, it's not really going to hold over. I personally, I would deep fry a lot more if I knew what to do with this leftover oil. Well, if you're like me, um, I've got a deal for you. Uh, the Saturday after Thanksgiving, uh, over at Public Works. You might remember we talked about Public Works a couple weeks ago when I promoted the pumpkin smash. The folks at Scarce, which are that's the environmentally based group that's now over in Addison, Illinois, but they do so many good things to help um, reuse, and recycle various materials. They are helping the St. Charles Natural Resources Commission host a cooking oil collection. So, if you or somebody you know has an abundance of cooking oil from your turkey or from other frying adventures that you might have had, bring it over to Public Works. They ask that you put it in a container with a screw top on it. So milk jugs are good. The container that you bought the oil in is excellent. You just want to make sure that the container is sealed so that it's not leaking oil all over your car or all over you as you bring it in to drop it off. They also stipulate that the only vegetable oil is being collected at this time. That the animal fats, bacon grease, that sort of thing, that's not suitable for what this is going to become, which is biodiesel. Biofuels that can be used to run all sorts of different motors. The cooking oil, vegetable-based cooking oils, can be used and recycled very efficiently. So keep that in mind. And with that, I'm going to stop the screen share that it took forever to start, and I'm going to turn it over to you guys to see start singing. Yeah, that was a really long and awkward start to this program. If you're new tonight, folks, I apologize. Technology problems aren't unusual here, but that was one I hadn't encountered before. Um, oh, Jerry, yes. Cantharidin. Yes, there is a use for that of removing warts. I don't know if it hurt when they did it to you, but yes, that is another use for that substance. And I don't know if maybe if there's any chemists in the group, they could explain if this is a substance that can be manufactured. I only know of it as coming from the beetles, but yes, that is something that has been touted as another use for that substance.
It definitely stung.
Yes, Laura, you were poetry in motion, tippy-toeing over that down limb. That was pretty awesome. And yeah, white crown sparrow, that's kind of what I came up with. And then reading that description of the foraging behavior, I felt fairly confident that's what it was. And yes, the fruit was tart. Um, so Yeah, Diane, I think you had commented on the fall color. Let's see, I don't know if Diane's here tonight. Oh yeah, there you are. You're right up there in the corner. Hey, Diane, you're muted. Um, can you unmute yourself?
There, I'm unmuted. I'm unmuted now. Can you hear me?
Nope, still can't hear you.
Oh, wait, let me turn. That's weird.
We can hear you.
Let me
Um,
turn up my volume. How about, is that better, Pam? Can you
who's
hear me?
good at reading lips?
You can't hear
Um,
me, Pam?
yeah,
I can hear you.
maybe the microphone is turned off on the
Other people can hear me. Maybe
computer.
it's your microphone.
John and Bobby can hear you.
Yep.
Hello, Pam.
Maybe my microphone is turned off.
Yeah, I think that's it. You still can't hear me, Pam?
No, I can totally hear you now. I had my mic off.
Oh, okay. There you
Or
go.
my sound was off. Um, I wonder how that
Yes.
happened.
Well,
So everybody else probably heard what you said.
well, no, I don't know where you were going with your question, but years ago, I worked at Holden Arboretum in Ohio.
Okay.
And one of my very favorite trees was a Tupelo tree because in the fall, it was just spectacular. It was red and uh, just the brightest tree in the horizon.
Yeah. Well, and that's so when Laura and I were looking for these, I said, Diane said that she saw you had commented last time we talked about the tree, about the magnificent fall color. And um so we were sort of thinking, well, maybe Diane's yard is full of Tupelo trees, and maybe she'll invite
You,
us over to
you know, I have a lot. I have probably 20 different kinds of trees, but I don't have a Tupelo. I don't know why.
Well, part of our little seed berry tasting adventure produced the seed. The seed is actually quite so the fruit itself is maybe the size of a raisin, and then the seed inside is about the size of either a piece of popcorn or like maybe an orange or grapefruit.
Hmm.
Grapefruit seed would be too big. So there's a lot of seed inside there. I saved mine, and so I might look up Tupelo propagation to see if maybe if I keep them in the refrigerator and plant them in the spring, um, and then wait 20 years, maybe we could get that jam made here. But um, anyway,
And
that's
they have. I know they have Tupelos at Morton Arboretum, so
okay.
you can
So if we go there and
hop in your car.
do one of these sort of
Right.
surreptitious pickings. Well, great. Yeah, well, we'll keep going. I'm gonna go back to our arborist and say, maybe he plugged in the wrong species name or something, because we have an inventory of all the trees that have been planted, and even some that weren't planted but were good size when we acquired the property. And his tree inventory directed him to those spots, but I'm thinking maybe he used a different name and sent us to it. But that was the other thing. Laura and I looked at. We didn't see any. There wasn't any similarities between those three sites. We didn't see like the one site was the bald cypress, and around the turtle statue there was oh gosh, what was that? Some willow or sumac or something there, like shrubby types of things. And Delnor Woods, we did find a bladdernut over at Delnor Woods, which was kind of neat. I didn't know we had any bladdernut at Delnor Woods, but I'll keep you guys posted if we crack the case of the missing sour gums. But
Well, I know the sour gums prefer acidic
acidic
soil,
soils.
so that's
Okay.
why you're not finding them all over the place.
Okay. Yeah. Well, and even looking at their distribution statewide, they're not really known to be
Hmm.
in this area, but somebody planted that one behind Potawatomi, and I was so excited when our arborist said, "Oh yeah, I'll send you the aerials." And we thought, "Wow, we've got three different places we can go to pick berries." And three strikes, we were out. It was kind of chilly that day. I wasn't uh, too sad about having to go home and get warm. Um, but yeah, Jerry, thanks for sending that recipe. And some of you might know, as my undergraduate degree was in foods, and we did a whole pectin lab when we were learning about how jellies form. And so I would be glad to draw on that experience if we could ever find something to make jams or jellies with. Anyway, anybody else have anything they'd care to share? Um,
Pam, I already have my audio on.
and I
I
have
want
mine on now too.
Okay. Um, I want, and since as you mentioned, I've been on this mushroom kick, and
Uh-huh.
I was going to just, if it's okay, I was going to just share a few children's books or young
Oh,
people's
sure.
books that
Uh-huh.
because I know people are interested in holiday presents now. And so let me show you what I've got. And I'm on my iPad, so I'm going to try
Okay.
and put these up. Okay, this one, of course, it's going to be backwards probably, but this one is
Oh, works well.
a read about series, and
Okay.
this is read about fungi, and I like this one because it's very simple, it's very short, and it's all photographs. And it's pretty cute because it even has a section. It's written by L. Sims, and it even has fungi jokes and
Oh, cool.
how to do spore prints. And it's
Oh.
very, a pretty easy reader too for those budding readers.
Well, and
Uh,
even adult, because it's a topic that is so complex. There's so many parts to it. To have
right.
an introduction like that, I think would be really helpful.
And now this one right here is called Mushroom in the Rain. And this is a translation from a Russian book. And it's very basic, but it's a great introduction for preschoolers, probably.
Okay.
It's written by Mira Ginsburg.
Okay.
And basically, it's the cutest story because it talks about how the rabbit, I think, went under the mushroom, and he was crowded, and then the bird came and to get out of the rain, and it was, it was able to fit in, and then some other animal came, and pretty soon there's a whole group of animals under the mushroom
Underneath the mushroom.
because the magic is that it was raining and the mushroom got bigger.
Exactly
So,
what we've been seeing.
right. Now, I was told by a naturalist in Milwaukee at Milwaukee Domes that this book was out of print, but I was able to find it pretty easily on
Okay.
Amazon. And I also even ordered a hardcover for to gift to the school.
Nice.
But now, this is the third one here. It's called We Are Fungi. This one is illustrations by Christine Nishiyama. It has beautiful, beautiful illustrations in it. Let me just show you this one picture if I can find it quickly. Oh, here. We have weird names like Veiled Lady, Chicken Fungus. It's so
Was that one the bloody tooth? That the one picture there, the one with the red spots on it?
Yeah, bleeding tooth.
I was just looking at those. That is one freaky looking mushroom, and it's happening right now. That my ecology group that I follow on Facebook was posting pictures of it. It oozes this red substance, and
Mhm.
it's kind of it was one of those things where you didn't want to look, but then you couldn't look away.
And then look at this beautiful picture here of explaining the mycelium.
Wow,
It
you could use
explains
it.
it as we keep growing and spreading our fingers to connect the plants beneath the earth.
Love it.
Yeah, and then in the back, there's a pretty extensive glossary and bibliography, and it's good. And then the last one, I'll not bore you anymore, is called Fungus is Among Us. And it is written by Joy Keller. And I, at first, when I saw this, I was a little bit hesitant because looked to me like it was going to be scary. And I thought, some children might be frightened by it because look at the picture looks,
Yeah.
and it's
But
also, and I think this one, I don't know that it's not written by a mycologist, but in the back of the book, they introduce you to a mycologist and what a mycologist does. Meet a mycologist, and it explains
awesome.
that. And then and again, it has some excellent information in it. Let's see if I can find at least one picture that would be good. But it makes it kind of scary, and I wasn't sure that it'd be the best thing for young
Well, I
children.
suppose if they don't want kids eating them, then making them a little scary is
That's
a way
true,
to go.
but the illustrations are beautiful in it.
Yeah, check that out.
Yeah. So
That's
anyway, if anyone
well,
wants more information about these, if you just email Pam, you could direct it to me or send them
yeah,
my
well,
email
and it
address.
looks like Jerry was asking if you could share the first one again, the read about
Sure.
fungi.
Sure. Yeah, I
Uh,
like this series. Um, it's it's the science, nature, and discussing. Read about fungi. Um, it's perfect for children aged 4 to 8, and it's reading level K to 2. And it's written by L. Sims, Simms.
I am. Got it.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So anyway,
Well, thanks, Diane.
you're welcome.
I got a new reading list now, and this is
Yeah.
all within, I
Well,
feel confident.
this is how I've learned everything about mushrooms is through my class at the Kane County Forest Preserve, and then these books.
Yeah. No, I love it. Yeah, because it's a topic that I've wanted to get a better handle on, and it seems like every time I try to learn more, I get more confused.
Mhm.
Some of these words are, 30 or 40 characters long, and you can't pronounce them, can't process them. I try to break them down, and um, and there's so the variety. There, you know, there's so much to absorb. So that's the way to start. And I appreciate you
The,
sharing those.
the last one, what was the question?
Um, let's see, you're getting lots of thanks. Meg says thanks. Wallace said thanks. And oh, Jerry, I'm sorry. Meg wanted to know what the last one was again. That
It's
was the
called
fungus is among
Fungus is
us.
Among Us, and it's written by Joy Keller.
Joy, get that
I
written
think
down.
I'm pretty sure I got all of these on Amazon. So
Okay.
I know, I'm sure they're available at other places, but I try to get them quickly before the mushrooms disappear.
Well, and folks, I wrote everything down, and I think I can read my writing. So if there's something else, if
Okay.
anybody else
Thank
wants
you.
the reading list, I can email it to you.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Diane. That was awesome.
You're welcome.
Oh, and Amanda and Jimmy, you want to see tech support puppy? Wait, one more. Yes, the field guide that National Audubon puts out. That's a really good one. That's the one with the photographs as opposed to the drawings, I believe, and it's
Right.
got the vinyl cover on it. Yeah, those are good too. And I just, Patrick Leacock was who we've had out now several times to teach our Learn from the Experts mushroom classes, and I just wish I could walk behind him and absorb everything he says because he'll show two what I think are identical species, and it turns out they're not even in the same family. There's just so many different things to have to learn with those. But again, Diane, thank you so much, and everybody else, thank you so much. Appreciate your time tonight. I am going to try something as we leave tonight. I'm going to nope. Hold on. I thought I'd practice this the outro. Amanda, you had suggested we have music as we leave, and I need to
Don't forget tech support puppy
and
too.
tech support puppy. Who just walked away? Oh, here we go. All right, here comes the outro, and oh, where did it go? All right, can you guys hear this? Boker. Here, run, buddy. Puppy cam. Uh-oh. All right. That's enough of that. There we go. Bye, everybody. Wow.
Thanks,
Hi,
Pam.
thank you.
Bye.
Oh boy, here we go.
Bye.
So long.
Bye, Pam. Bye, Booker.
That's such a cute puppy.
Kelly, happy birthday!